So there's a lot of really crazy stuff going on with the Blackhawks right now. And I think if you turn on any Sportsnet or TSN or hockey outlet in general, you're going to find yourselves material to read about Bettman and the response and the NHL PA and the Blackhawks prospect that dressed up as a very inappropriate Halloween costume, too. But when it comes to this hockey team, because that has been flooding my timeline, and I'm pretty sure everybody out there has been reading up on it. If you haven't, then please go ahead and check out any of the articles and whatnot that have been published. But I wanted to focus on the on-ice product, because when it comes to the biggest trade that actually went down in the offseason this year, it's honestly kind of strange to see how weird of an outcome we have had so far in the short term for the team that many people thought was the de facto loser of this trade. I'm talking about the Seth Jones trade with the Columbus Blue Jackets, where the Chicago Blackhawks traded for Seth Jones, they signed him to a $9.5 million AAV extension, and they gave up a boatload of stuff in the process. Now, when it comes to this Seth Jones thing, why exactly am I talking about this today? Well, because yesterday we had ourselves Adam Fox, the reigning Norris winner and one of the best defensemen in the entire National Hockey League for the New York Rangers, sign himself a $9.5 million AAV by 7-year contract. And that kind of got me thinking, okay, you have Adam Fox, whose overall statistical profile is one of the best in the entire league. He has consistently been just such a fantastic NHL player, and he's making the same amount of money as one Seth Jones, who was acquired by the Blackhawks for a boatload of stuff. Now, if you take a look at the actual trade, the Hawks acquired Seth Jones and a 6th-round pick in exchange for Adam Boqvist, a 2021 second, a conditional 2022 first, as well as the right for the Blue Jackets to move up in the 2021 draft from 32nd to 12th overall. The Blackhawks then took that 32nd pick. The second was used by the Blue Jackets in a trade for Jake Bean with the Carolina Hurricanes. They have Cole Sillinger drafted with the 12th overall pick, and Adam Boqvist is also on the team as well. We can go on for ages about how good of a return this has been for Seth Jones in general, but I wanted to mostly focus on Jones himself, because it's no secret that coming into this year, Seth Jones was seen as one of the worst defensemen in the NHL in terms of his advanced analytics. This is the JFresh chart from the 2020-2021 season in 56 games played. His wins above replacement metric was 7%, meaning that he was really, really bad. The closer you are to 0, the worse you are to the bottom of the league in terms of the percentile. And when it comes to all the individual categories, there was only one where Seth Jones was seen as a positive, where he was better than average. It was the power play. He had an 80% metric in power play scenarios, meaning that he was 30% better than average, and then you look at everything else. Okay, his even strength offense is at 16%, his even strength defense is at 10%. What does that mean? Well, it means that his offensive generation for the team is so low compared to average that he is in the bottom 16% of all players in the league when it comes to generating offense at even strength, and when it comes to even strength defensive play, which is shutting down opposing shot attempts and expected goals for against, he is one of the worst there too. So lo and behold, he was just seen as this guy whose overall impact in most areas of the game was negative. He was traded away, and then he was given that massive contract. Now, to be fair to JFresh, because everybody loves to crap on advanced analytics, and everybody loves to use Seth Jones as the poster boy for a good player in terms of what NHL GMs think, and a bad player based off the analytics, he has actually improved his statistical profile for the year. Now, I actually saw this firstly today, which is why I'm making this video, but Seth Jones wins above replacement metric, if you incorporate 2022's numbers into the mix, actually jumps up a lot more. He's no longer in the bottom 7 percentile of NHL players when it comes to performance on the ice. He is now in the bottom 23%, a 16% increase from last year to last year plus this year. That's not isolating this year's performance and the small 8 whatever game sample size we have had. This is just taking a look at how Jones's chart has been affected by the small sample size so far. Take a look at his even strength offense. It's actually bumped up to 25%. Seth Jones is now in the top 6% of NHL players in terms of their power play performance. And for penalties, he's no longer below average. Hey, he has increased 24% in terms of his effectiveness in that category. And in fact, if you've been watching these Chicago games, which I'm sure a lot of people actually have been, because, hey, seeing a team go out there and lose however many games of their first X amount of games is very entertaining, oddly enough. So just seeing this team go out there, lose some games, a lot of people have had their eyes on Seth Jones. Guess what? Even though he has carried this reputation this entire season of being a bad player, and he hasn't really looked fantastic at times. He's had a few up and down games here. He had one, I think, actually pretty alright game, and everything else was just kind of very fluctuating, I guess you could say. Seth Jones has a total of 8 points in 10 games played. And if you do the math on that, okay, what's 8 divided by 10? Well, that's 0.8. Yeah, that's the easiest math equation we've had to do for any of these statistics on here. Multiply it out by 82, he's on pace for 65 points, which is fantastic. It's just, of course, points. Those are not the only indicators of how well a defenseman plays. Just because you produce points does not mean you are automatically good. You can still be a bad defenseman while also producing points. And for Seth Jones in particular, if you take a look at this game log over here, his previous game saw himself getting an assist against the Senators. He went pointless against the St. Louis Blues as they got shut out. But then against the Hurricanes, the Leafs, the Red Wings, and the Canucks, he registered points in all those games. And it's something that I really did notice with the Vancouver game in particular, when the Canucks ended up winning 4-1. That power play that Chicago has, it's so effective because it's just a Brandt and it's Patrick Kane, and you have those guys that are very talented. We know those guys are very capable NHL scorers, but they have Seth Jones on that power play as well. And in fact, he runs the power play at the top of the umbrella. He is to the Chicago Blackhawks on the power play what Quinn Hughes is to the Vancouver Canucks. And seeing him just be the guy who gets every second pass, then he gives it over to Kane, then Kane goes cross-crease to DeBrincat, and DeBrincat scores the goal. It's one of those things where it's like, wow, okay, so Seth Jones is just in the right place at the right time. That's why he got that point. And just looking at all of the other points that Seth Jones has accomplished, okay, well, sure, his point against the Senators the other night was an even strength point. He also was a +2 and he had 2 shots. I saw a lot of people raving about how good Seth Jones actually looked in this Senators game. But going back to the Hurricanes, the Leafs, the Red Wings, and the Canucks, not to mention the Islanders as well, all of Seth Jones's assists, except for one, happened to have been on the power play. Out of his 8 points this season, 5 of them have been on the man advantage, and when it comes to how exactly the Blackhawks are using him, his statistics have been so constant in terms of the point production as well as the minutes on the ice that it's really strange to try to analytically process Seth Jones and his profile. He was a -3 in the Detroit game. He was on the ice for 3 goals against, and they all looked pretty bad. Yet he still had an assist on that one on the power play, which boosts that aspect of his profile. It's why for the JFresh player card right here, he has actually improved his production on the power play quite a bit. And heck, even though he may be on the ice for 3 Red Wings goals against, and even though he may be getting minuses here and there, he's still not really doing all too well for a $9.5 million defenseman. It's not that bad compared to what we saw last year, and in fact, it's actually improving his statistical profile if you incorporate last year's numbers with this year's numbers, and you look at the sample like that. The only category where Seth Jones has actually not improved was shooting. He is now at the bottom 4% of NHL players in terms of his shooting ability, and it's not really difficult to understand why. He has played 10 games and he has 0 goals. And he's shooting the puck a lot. He's got 33 shots in those 10 games, so he's averaging just over 3 shots a game. But he's not really getting good shots. And I noticed this also during the Vancouver game as well. That, yeah, the guy's not afraid to just let it go from the point, but they're all just kind of scrambly plays where he takes it kind of sort of on the rush, and there's no real screen or anything, so the goalie's able to see it. But either way, you know, having an improvement in every other category, offensive production, defensive, defending, power play production, and penalty kill efficiency, it is crazy to think, but Seth Jones actually might be getting better. Is he Adam Fox, 9.5 AAV worthy? Probably not. But is he better than we thought? I don't know. You tell me in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.